The comment is.
Thank you. Good evening. I've reviewed the two public information tapes on this particular subject, the most recent one being on the 27th public information session, most recent one being on the 27th of July of this year. I think I was most impressed by the overall lack of focus and the domineering of the public information by Ms. Sottolano, who has no engineering experience, while there was Representative Ms. Lisa Wallin from NJ and Engineering present, who should have been answering most of the questions, but that's not here or there. That's a simple remark that it was tremendously unfocused. I think the main takeaways from that particular information session was that the emphasis placed on sidewalks was very piecemeal, and I don't understand how there could possibly be something that would be considered sensible, putting sidewalks in an area where there's practically on a day-to-day basis no pedestrian traffic whatsoever. Drainage problem, I don't think I've ever experienced that in the 25 years that I've been down here. Negligible pedestrian traffic, negligible cyclist traffic, and definitely a non-negligible absence of law enforcement, which might alleviate many of the seminal problems that were addressed at these information sessions. The two main takeaways was a major concern about truck traffic, and the second one was that truck traffic was significant. This is very, very true. But some of the fixes that were proposed, and I think that many of the people at this information session would have agreed, is that some of the solutions proposed at the information session would not alleviate the problem. Because people are not, if they don't know how to drive and don't observe what's out there already, no amount of widening or signing is going to help. If people are that ignorant not to look at what signing is out there and to drive carefully and cautiously, nothing else matters. By widening the road, you're only going to invite more truck traffic. One of the major problems is that DOT and law enforcement is not supervising and enforcing the DOT permitting. And that's a major thing. If you have scofflaws driving through this restricted area, who've been granted DOT permits to use this route, and they're not observing the route restrictions, then they have to whip the permit out from under them. That's as simple as that. I also like to note in conclusion here that I find it extraordinary that every member of this town board lives at least 1/2 mile away from the subject area. Ms. Sottolano is the nearest one, at 0.4 miles from the subject area. Ms. Cash is 1.2 miles from the subject area. Ms. Van Etten is 3.5. Ms. Downs is 8.3 miles from the subject area. And you, Mr. Russo, Chairman, are 1.5 miles. I find it extraordinary that any of you can assume to be in a position to make any decisions for residents who are immediately affected. Bearing that in mind, I do want to make a proposal here. I suggest that since none of you really are immediately concerned by the problems that are being addressed by this complete streets, that the board, there are two provisions in state and town law that will afford you the opportunity to appoint an ad hoc advisory committee from residents who are immediately concerned, or at least residents who live in the National Historic District, to appoint an ad hoc advisory committee made up of immediate residents from the hamlet and from the National Historic District to advise the board on what their perception of the problems are and what potential solutions might be. You have a retired civil engineer, Peter Milewski, who should be included on that committee, that council board, whatever you intend to consider. And that it be made up of at least 5 members, including Mr. Milewski. Ms. Sottolano could possibly be appointed an observer on the committee or the board in her ex officio capacity, but not in the decision or voting capacity. Of course, this type of board is not subject to the open meetings law. It does not have to be a public meeting. But I think it'd be a far better solution than what you're working with now. They know the problems. They're the best ones to advise you. Thank you.
Thank you.